Hold on, everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, whatever, Facebook.
Hey everybody, this is the 83 Weeks After Party. Tonight we are covering everything from Fall Brawl 1997 to AEW Dynamite last night with probably the one and only guy who's ever been in Tony Khan's shoes. You are going to get all of your questions answered by the one and only Eric Bischoff. And you know what? To answer the question of the week, I just want to clarify I am not friends with Scott Colton. But I do have a couple of friends along with me here tonight. Steve Kaufmann, Adam Woods. Hello, sirs.
Hello.
Thank you for asking me to pay your bills.
I know no one asked me, but I'm going to answer it. I've never even met Scott Colton. I don't even know Scott Colton. I don't even know people named with the last name Colton. I just need that to be on the record, and it's kind of insulting. I have to be on the record to say that.
So I'm going to be the odd man out. I am actually friends with Scott Colton. I shit you not.
We found one. We found one.
There you go.
All right. Well, we're not sure whether he's even met him or not, but it is not about that tonight. It is about the one and only Hall of Famer, Eric Bischoff. Eric, how are you doing tonight, sir?
Let me tell you about Scott Colton.
Yes.
This person, I was at an indie show, whatever, I don't know, it's a while ago. I was at some event, signing autographs to something. Not an indie wrestling show, but an autograph signing of some sort. And he came up and Colt Cabana, because I have respect for him, and whenever I lose respect for someone in the professional wrestling industry, I call them by their birth name. And whatever my history is with them or not, but if they've achieved a certain status in the industry, regardless of my feelings towards them, I call them by their character name. It's just the way I came up, I guess. But I first met Colt Cabana at a convention of sorts, and he came up to me and said, "Hey, I've been following you on social media. Here's a little hint. If you're going to start out something with a @ blank, like if I was going to go @ Christy, he said, always use the dot @ Christy first. Otherwise, it may not make it."
Right. Everyone doesn't see it.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, what a good guy. He had nothing to gain from that little bit of information that he shared for me.
Right,
He wasn't doing it to benefit himself. He was just being a nice guy. And that's my impression. So fuck you, you bitch. You whiny bitch. You whiny old brittle bitch. Go away.
And because of Scott Colton, now you know when you tell him that to not go @ CM Punk and then everything you're about to say. You go period @ CM Punk and then everything you're about to say.
What in the fuck did you just say?
That was what Scott Colton told you.
Okay.
Just gotta take my word for it.
A lot more confusing hearing it from you.
Fair.
Well, you touched on your feelings there about CM Punk's comments and whole demeanor, I guess, at the media scrum. So let's just kick it off right here with John Graham asking you, Eric Bischoff, should AEW sack CM Punk?
Fuck yes. Here's the deal. I am disappointed in a number of ways about the way Tony has taken this massive opportunity that he has, and in my opinion, mismanaged it. That just drives me nuts, because opportunities like this are just once in a lifetime, and when you can see the train wreck happening before the train wreck actually happens, it does kind of make you a little crazy, which was probably me right now. But it doesn't mean I don't like or respect Tony. And I'll call out some shit in my frustration and hoping that somebody sees it and goes, oh, well, maybe we should think about that. But what CM Punk did to Tony Khan in that press conference, there is not a fucking chance in the world he would have got out of that arena without being fired. I mean, that was so disrespectful. Tony Khan is paying this overpriced, broken down, old, bitter piece of shit millions of dollars. Millions. and he cut Tony Khan's bowels off in what was called a press conference, whatever it is. But I just, to me, you can forgive, you can forget, you can beat each other up, you can knock each other's teeth out, go buy each other a beer at the bar when it's over, and move on. Not from something like that. I just, CM Punk made Tony Khan a babyface to me. I mean, I have less than zero respect for him.
No, I totally understand what you're saying, but I want to ask you, what is different from Punk's, I guess, media scrum debacle versus the subsequent MJF promo, both on Dynamite this week and the infamous one at the Inglewood Forum, the one that everybody talks about, because he did speak unfairly of Punk. So should MJF get the sack too? And also, what conversation, let's just say if it were work, what conversation is Tony Khan having with Discovery or whoever the parent company or...
I mean, you can't hit me with two questions like that, seriously. Because, they're two separate, they're not even connected, right?
Yeah, let's start with MJF.
Start with MJF. I'll be honest with you, brother, that's a good question. I don't know why I feel differently. I don't know why. My gut, yes, I do know why. If I think about it, we're doing a little therapy here. Here's my bitch with Punk. From the get-go, and I know everybody that listens to this go, oh, he's such a Hulk Hogan mark. There's nothing to do with that. I paid zero attention to Punk when he was in WWE. I wouldn't have recognized, because I wasn't watching it. It has nothing to do with how successful Punk was in WWE or not. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying at that point in time, I was paying zero attention to wrestling. Zero, less than zero. Like if it was on in a restaurant or a bar and I saw it, I would probably go to the other side of the bar. Just getting away from it. Not that I hated it, no hard feelings. I just, rearview mirror. I compartmentalize shit. And once I put it in a compartment, it stays in that compartment. And that's where I was with wrestling then. Now I understand subsequently that Punk raised to a really high level, got to a really high level in WWE. He was very successful, made a lot of money for WWE and himself in the process. And then something went wrong. I don't know what the background is. Don't know. Don't care. Not my deal. No dog in a fight. Don't care. Moves on. 7 years. He's fucking gone. He spent about 18 months in the limelight. Maybe 2 years. Anybody correct me if I'm wrong?
That's fair.
I'd say that's about right. Yeah.
All right. So he spent 18 fucking months in the limelight, and the piece of shit thinks he's fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Undertaker, Hulk Hogan, John Cena, and The Rock all wrapped into one.
Mm-hmm.
You're just a lucky bitch. You got into you were talented enough to get a unique opportunity and a unique moment in time where your particular character would get over when you're surrounded by a bunch of other characters that would allow you to get over. And now that you're not, you're exposed, you fragile bitch. And what really turned me off to Punk was when he came back to AEW, the first thing he did was bury Hulk Hogan. This is called circle back to the main point. First thing he did was bury Hulk Hogan. Now, it's not because Hulk Hogan is a friend of mine, even though that's part of it. I'll admit that it's part of it. But what I found in my life, in the 30 years I've spent in the wrestling business, when the only way you know how to get yourself over is by burying somebody else, you got nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You got fucking nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it may have worked for you, Punk, you bitch, in WWE for 18 months. But now that you're in a different world, guess what? Your shit ain't over anymore. And you're old. and you're tired looking and you fucking cry a lot. For a guy that's supposed to be a tough ass baby face, you cry a lot. And when you exposed yourself in that press conference and you showed everybody what you're really made of, you're a phony. You're not a tough guy. You're a whiny bitch. There you go. So
And if you don't have the wherewithal, to know that you're coming off as a whiny bitch, and to know that you're messing up your character, other people's characters, the whole entire
who
promotion.
blows up a $5 million, $6 million, $3 million, whatever the number is? I kind of know what the number is, but I'm going to be vague. Who fucks that up unless you're so delusional you think you're worth twice that much as somebody will pay it?
I mean, who else is there?
I am amazed how lucky some people get in life.
Well, wasn't that Punk's kind of, assumption that he made about Hangman Adam Page in that press conference, that he blew up $1 million gate, by going into business himself?
He shit all over $1 million company.
Yeah.
He shit on his boss's lap. Sorry to be so explicit. In what was, they call it a scrum. That's a fucking joke is what it is. Scrum, joke. Same thing. It's a joke. But he just humiliated his boss, the guy that's paying him millions of dollars. He emasculated him. He made him look like a goof.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't reach out and pat him on the top of the head at one point. Like, that was the tone of his voice when he was speaking to Tony.
You should have fed him a fucking cookie or whatever he was eating. And that's the other thing, man. What kind of an arrogant piece of shit are you when you think you're so fucking over and you're so cool that you can disrespect the media? Look, what is media? We talked about this today on AdFreeShows.com.
Yeah, great episode of Strictly Business.
Outside of the wrestling internet universe, media people there, sorry for the quotes, but come on. Let's all admit it. It is what it is. Sean Ross Sapp admitted it. He's not a fucking journalist. He's just a rumor spreader, and he's good at it. I love him for admitting it. He has a sense of humor. He's not taking it seriously, unlike a lot of these other idiots. Mm-hmm. But in that...
Yeah, who are patting themselves on the back.
How much... Look, I've said some bad shit about Tony Khan, or I haven't said some bad shit. I've said things that I think are constructive in my own way. Granted, may have a little bit of an edge. But I have never been as disrespectful to Tony Khan as CM Punk was in that scrum. Ever. And nobody's paying me millions of dollars. What the fuck?
Okay, well, so here's kind of the glaring omission from our conversation here. The big questions. Charlene wants to know, I think AEW is doing a gotcha for ratings and injuries. Eric, is this all a work?
No. I was hoping it was, when this whole thing went on, I'm like, no, this is too bizarre to be real, so therefore it must be. I know it's a work by default, because whenever you see something that's like, no, that's just that's crazy, that's not possible, therefore it must be a work, that's kind of where I was at. Mm-hmm. Now I'm into it's just a fucking dysfunctional mess category.
That's a good way to
the same thing is happening in the women's division with Thunder Rosa. If you read the tea leaves, it's kind of the same thing. And there's the Thunder Rosa camp and there's the Britt Baker camp. So it's not an isolated incident.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just can't.
I speak
fact-
Eric
We used
Bischoff.
to even engage in that conversation.
I speak Eric Bischoff. That exacerbated hand motion is I don't want to wind up in headlines for something I don't even know.
No, that's not that at all. It's just
Okay.
like the amount of fucks I have to give are non-existent. That's what that is.
A couple weeks ago, we were sort of applauding, or I was applauding Tony for, this new talent relations division. They were naming new people and putting folks in charge that it seemed like the wrestlers knew they could go to, and kind of trying to create that, communication between the wrestlers and the company and all of that. And then we hear that a couple of those guys were involved in the melee.
That's a bunch of press release corporate fucking gaga. It's just, yeah, the internet says we got problems. We better fix that. Look, if the truth is that Tony Khan has really embraced Tony Schiavone as a right-hand man, whatever that means, but hopefully that means some counsel, maybe a different opinion from somebody that's like kind of been there, done that more than once. I hope that's true, because that's what Tony needs. Tony needs that. Tony fancies himself because Tony's obviously a very smart guy. I mean, he remembers data detail in his own way. He's fucking brilliant. But in other ways, he's fucking not. And the key to being really successful when you're brilliant is to know when you're fucking not. Mm-hmm. And if you can plug the fucking knot holes with the fucking can holes, you're in good shape. I think Schiavone's one of those guys who can. If Khan listens, if he's just putting him in that spot so that it serves a public relations, goal and, affect perspective or perception, and, let's make it look like we're really doing something, but right. He's not really listening to Schiavone. I feel bad for Tony Schiavone. There's other people there, I said Monday, right after this shit went down, gave an interview on the after shows. Dominic D'Agostino said, dude, tag in Chris Jericho. Make him your Undertaker. Mm-hmm. You make him your Undertaker, but you could allow him to be your Undertaker. He doesn't need to be involved in creative, none of that. Just keep that shit in check before it gets nuts. Who doesn't respect Chris Jericho? Maybe somebody doesn't like him, but even if you don't like him, you respect him. Mm-hmm. Who else in the locker room has that much experience? Mm-hmm. All sides of the coin. And by the way, Chris won't take your shit either. And everybody knows that.
Yeah.
Let him be your guy. Tony, take yourself out of that direct connect position. Nobody's afraid of you, Tony. Nobody respects you. Nobody believes in you at this point. They'll take your money and tell you what a great guy you are on social media and how much they love you and how much they love being part of AEW because you're paying them to say those things, whether you know it or not. Mm-hmm. But the people that you really need are people like Chris Jericho, William Regal, Steven Regal, and I'm sure there are others there that are, honestly will have your back. Mm-hmm. Not for the money, but will honestly have your back. Mm-hmm. Put those people in front, take a step back, and don't try to be, the head coach, the offensive line coach, the defensive line coach, the head of the league, the executive producer, the referee.
Head booker.
Don't do that.
Creative.
Don't do that.
Do you think Jerry Jones is making decisions about the offensive line?
I have no idea.
Bingo.
That he should be owner is a set position that he's just not following.
I don't want to draw parallels to NFL because I don't know enough about NFL to have a conversation. All I know is that Tony Khan's not capable of being in the position that he's thrust himself in, and he's got a lot of talented people within his reach. Mm-hmm. He can reach out and tag them in and empower them in a real way and distance himself and his ego from being the face of AEW. He would be so far ahead, it wouldn't be funny.
Mm-hmm. The fact that he doesn't seem to acknowledge what he doesn't know and his weaknesses, what he's not doing well and what he's not making happen is just even more worrisome.
What's funny? I used to use this term all the time, and I didn't make it up. I didn't invent it, whatever. I read it or heard it somewhere. But it's the most powerful 5 words I know. Know what you don't know. Know what you don't know and be willing to spend as much time thinking about what you don't know as you do thinking about what you do know. Because then you'll backfill your weaknesses. That will allow you to be good at what you really do. But when you try to be good at everything, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about some of the decisions that Tony has made in the aftermath of all this. Kenny Williams is asking, should the Bucks and Omega even have been stripped and suspended as well? What did you think of that decision, Eric?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is that what you would have done?
I don't know what I would have done because I don't know what really happened.
Mm-hmm.
Does
a physical fight backstage warrant suspension in your mind?
This is going to be so unpopular, but because of the way I grew up, I just don't think a fight between professional wrestlers is not that big a deal to me. It's only about 30% more than they do for a living. I mean, they beat the fuck out of each other all the time. So they're a little angry. They're a little pissed. Maybe they they're a little stiffer. In the case of let's face it. In the case of the Young Bucks, they have to get a lot stiffer if they're going to fight. Because nobody's going to sell your shit while you're slapping your leg in a real fight. Sorry, I just had to put that in there. I'm trying to be fun. Lighthearted. Come on. You gotta laugh and cry. But I just don't think that part of it matters to me. And this is why, would never be qualified to be involved in a public corporation or any kind of corporation for that matter. It's like if 2 guys are pissing at each other and want to beat the fuck out of each other, I really don't care. That's their problem. They'll do it. They'll get over it. They'll heal up, and then we'll move on. They'll probably be drinking beer together, the next night at a bar. It's the shit that happened at the press conference, to me, that's just unforgivable.
Ooh, I'm glad you brought that up because one of our live viewers, and we want to thank you all for being with us live here tonight, wanted to know what you think about those media scrums. Are they hurting the product?
No. Let's see.
Josh Henney says he doesn't care for it.
Let's look at the last couple of media scrums of Tony Khan. What was it, the one when he went on that fucking rant about B? Because I told him, by the way, and I was right, fucking Tony, give me a call, bitch. I'll forgive you. We can be friends after this. I said, CM Punk will be one of the worst investments in the history of professional wrestling. How fucking right am I right now? I mean, you gotta admit it. Everybody said, even people that were friends of mine said, Eric, I think you might have went out on a limb on that one a little bit. I went, no, I believe it.
Hey, it's Eric. Told you so. Hey, Eric, told you so.
He could have been the top drawing.
I'm like a savant. I can look into this jar of water and see the future.
Well, I think how much they've paid him, and how much they're gonna have to pay him, divided by how many dates he's worked, there's no way he's a good investment. I'm reading.
Look, and here's the thing about AEW. AEW is just like WWE, and here's the other thing. This is fucking Tony. If you're listening, please pay fucking attention. He comes out, starts bitching about WWE having a pay-per-view on the same weekend as their pay-per-view, and he's not taking that shit from WWE. Look at this shit he took from CM Punk.
Right. For
crying out loud. If you can't control a guy that you're paying millions of dollars a year from bitch slapping you in public, how the fuck are you supposed to stand up to WWE? Come on.
Well, he's not happy about the way that they've treated him, in general. So.
Well, also, just did they nullify the pay-per-view? Because 2 of the top draws, if you paid $50 or you're asking fans to pay $50 for the pay-per-view on a big combat sports weekend, right? Going into it, AEW World title and the Trios title. By Wednesday, even before Wednesday, 3 of those are nullified and vacated. You already had the women's title vacated going into the pay-per-view. So what was the point in paying $50 if you're an AEW fan if all of it is nullified by Tuesday?
Right.
Yeah, but you don't know that going in. I mean, it probably looked pretty interesting on paper for a lot of AEW fans. Hard to be critical. I mean, look, injuries happen, shit happens, people get, injured, find religion, contract disputes, all kinds of shit happens. That's part of the business, but this is not the right time to go into this, but it's like, again, I've been fairly critical. I've tried to be constructively critical of AEW because I just see it's like every move they make, it's like, oh my God, it's a wrong fucking move, But again, I'll admit, I've been out of the business for a while, and my way of thinking, I've always known. Just because I feel one way doesn't mean it's the right way. I'm always listening to other people, but I keep seeing the same things happening over and over and over again. And it's not that, Tony had to react to a bunch of injuries and craziness. It's just that he set himself up for it. This thing with Punk and MJF, we've already forgotten about the MJF pipe bomb. I mean, for fuck's sake.
I think
you've had 2 of your top talents cut your balls off, put them on a hibachi grill, and force feed them to you in public. For God's sake, get some control.
Well, I think we can agree that maybe karma was at work a little bit there after what MJF did to Wardlow on his big weekend. MJF getting overshadowed by CM Punk.
Hey, you guys want to see something cool?
Okay.
Check this
Please.
Ooh. Oh, hi.
That's Wade Garrett.
Hey,
Hey, WJ. Looking good in that hat.
Let's give him bigger faces. There we go.
Yes.
We just thought we'd come down to Grashell's party for a minute.
Oh, yes.
We love that. Does he have thoughts on AEW he'd like to share?
He's been instructed not to speak on that yet.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
10 points. Right on. Good seeing you guys.
Oh, well, that seems like a little way that we can make a bit of a turn here, and we've got a lot to talk about, of course. But since we had our little Wade J cameo there, let's go to this question from our friend Nicholas Blake. He says, "Hi Eric, what did you do for Labor Day weekend? His wife and he were sick all weekend. Hope you're feeling better, Nicholas. How was your weekend, E?"
It was great. Mrs. B and I went to Chicago last Thursday, got there, had dinner with some very, very, very close friends who we've known for the last, 40 years. And then we had Top Guy Weekend in Chicago, and it was just awesome. I can't say enough great things about it. Really, really, I'm very grateful for it. It was fun.
Great. That was really cute. Let's get back to the dramatic, toxic stuff. No, we love to see Wade J there. What do you got, Steve?
Trigger Cheese has a really good one, which is, do you ever think about how underpaid you were? Because you helped generate almost $500 million for WCW/Warner. Do you agree with the premise, and do you think about it at all?
First of all, it's more than $500 million, but I appreciate the sentiment. Do I think about it? No, I don't. I don't think about the past. I don't. And part of it is because, I wasn't really a talent. As a talent, I was probably worth more, honestly, than I was as an executive. Executives don't make a lot of money, compared to talent. And as an executive, I think my salary was about $500,000 a year, and then I get an additional 150 or 250 base, because I was on camera, and then there was a bonus structure. So I got paid well. I was making $1 million more or less for a few years. And that was fine. As a talent, I probably could have made more. But I just don't think about it.
Fair.
Oh, okay. You must
Also-
be happy and grateful for your life that you have.
Well, I am. I spent all that money.
You must have a good perspective on life, Eric. That's probably okay.
More. Money's just money. I don't get hung up on money or how much I make or how much I don't make. I really don't. I get really hung up on how happy I am and how secure I am.
Mhm.
I get hung up on that, and money's part of that, obviously. But oh gosh, I almost hesitate to say this because I've had a beer or two. Kids are here, grandson's here. You can forgive me. I've never cared about money, and part of it is because this is the part that's going to get heat. It's so easy to make it. I told my wife when I first met her, we were dead broke. We were fucking broke, and I would always make sure I would find a way that we could go out and have an amazing dinner, at least once a week. We could have a date night, even when we couldn't afford it. And Lori, who's much more conservative than I am, would always say, man, that's a lot of money. And I would always say, Lori, that's why they print so much of it. Because all you need to do is go find a way to get it. And I've always been good at finding a way to get it. I didn't go to college. I mean, I went to college. I went to college to party. But that didn't last long.
Go Huskies.
I should have never graduated from high school. The fact that I graduated from high school says a lot about, you talk about, a participation trophy. That's my high school graduation certificate. It was a participation trophy because I showed up at the bare minimum during the high school wrestling season to not get thrown off the team. Therefore, I got a participation trophy. But you know what? I've always made a lot of money, and I've always been successful. And I've had ups and downs. I've had peaks and valleys. That's an entrepreneur's life. That's the way it works. I would trade it for the world, but I've never done anything for the money. I've always done everything for the passion. Never done any. Let me take that back. I took the WWE job in 2019 for the money. I did do that.
And the catering.
You stayed for the catering.
Yeah, the catering got me through the day. I didn't stay for it, but it helped get me through the day. It's like a fucking wino and a bottle of $3, $2 chuck. In New York, $2 chuck's $3, but
Oh, of course. Of course.
Inflation.
Probably LA as well. Let's check in with our good friend Mick Mack, who wants to point out, Eric, that you had the courage to fire Honky Tonk Man, and Tony should have the courage to fire CM Punk as well. Apples and oranges, shall we say?
yeah, I think it probably is. In fairness, and I appreciate that. But in fairness, I think there's some pretty complex legal issues floating about. And again, I know nothing other than what I've read, and what I've read is probably half true. So it is what it is, right?
Right.
But if anything, if any percentage of what I read is true, and Punk got injured, and here's the part that I find really weird, because I watched that whole press conference, every second of it, because I knew I had to get on an ad-free shows Zoom first thing Monday morning, right? So I watched that press conference. Did CM Punk look like he had a hurt shoulder to you? Go back and watch it. Motherfucker was feeding his face like he hadn't eaten in a week.
I only listened to it on your show.
He was eating like a fucking wino that watched donuts fall off the back of a truck in an alley somewhere in Chicago. He was double fisting it.
You're not
He
wrong.
didn't wince. He had no hitch. There was no evidence whatsoever of a severe torn tricep or bicep during that press conference. But somehow after the fight, and I gotta tell you, I just can't imagine what that fight looked like. Yeah, Kenny Omega trying to save the fucking dog.
Larry.
You got the fucking what are the little two brothers called again?
The Young
Young
Bucks.
Bucks.
Young Bucks. Now, look, nothing against the Young Bucks. I mean, they're fun to watch in the ring. Great kids, I'm sure. Great human beings, I'm sure. Great men, I'm sure. But does either one of them look like a fight to you?
I mean,
Also, did they still have their gear on? You know?
No, come on.
Well,
The
Look at
bright
this
and
guy.
the.
well, the fact
The
that they
closest
kicked.
thing that they've ever gotten to a fight is fighting off blisters from playing video games.
So I think it's
Like
been thoroughly
strapping on a
debunked.
fucking Band-Aid to fight off a blister. That's the closest either one of those two little guys. All right, they're not little guys. That's the closest either one of those two have ever got to fight, which, by the way, I admire. They're not fighters. They're good people. They're just, I mean, but can you imagine that shit show? And here's Punk. First of all, who is this Ace Steel motherfucker? Because if that's his trainer, after what happened to him in the UFC, and every time he has a fucking match, he's off for 6 months, I'd find a new motherfucking trainer. I would sue for malpractice. There'd be some kind of lawsuit going on. Because this shit is fucking. And your badass trainer bites the guy that's trying to save your dog? What kind of shit show is this?
I mean, just to give it context, most jiu-jitsu world champions, MMA world champions look like they could do your taxes. So we're in there. But also, Ace Steel is his wrestling trainer versus his jiu-jitsu MMA trainer. He went to Rufus Ward in Milwaukee, one of the top gyms in the world.
Who are we talking about?
Ace
The guy
Steel.
that bit the dog?
Nobody bit the dog. I should clarify.
Thank God.
Peter's gonna love this
The
episode.
guy Kenny Omega bit, Ace Steel.
Yeah, Ace Steel is
He's
the
a-
pro wrestling
Kenny
trainer.
No,
Omega.
who bit Kenny Omega?
Ace
No.
Steel
Ace-
bit Kenny Omega.
Do I have that? Okay.
Jesus.
Yes, correct.
But
Oh my God.
that's the pro wrestling trainer, not the MMA trainer. So just
Okay,
yeah.
so
Well, based on all he's
we've
accomplished
lost
in
the
pro
great
wrestling.
details of shit I can't remember. No, it's a
Point
little
taken
hard
for
for me to keep up. So who the fuck is Ace Steel anyway?
CM Punk's pro wrestling trainer, and might be Scott Colton's wrestling trainer as well.
I don't give a fuck about that. He was a wrestling trainer,
Yes.
so he's not an MMA guy.
No.
Clearly, he bit the guy that was trying to save the fucking dog. He bit the guy that was trying to save the dog.
You're not wrong.
Of course I'm not wrong. I'm never fucking wrong. I say shit incorrectly sometimes, but I'm always right.
Oh.
Also, the idea that there must be security footage of this that
He
exists
bit the
somewhere.
guy that was saving the dog.
Mhm.
And he was saving Punk's dog.
But also
So
didn't
now if
Ace-
I'm Punk, I would fire the guy that bit the guy that was trying to save my dog. This is like a this is a sitcom. This is not.
It's
also
It has to be a war.
So-
There has to be a funny motherfucker behind the scenes pulling all these strings, going, doesn't matter what you do on TV, because on TBS or TNT, because we're going to make this a sitcom on HBO. This is all one big lost leader.
Well, we don't know if the story is going to end with CM Punk getting fired or not, but let's make sure we ask you this, Eric. Gator Nation 15 wants to know if they do get rid of Punk, how will it affect specifically the Chicago market? But I want to know if you think
Who
it will
gives
affect
a
the ratings
fuck?
of the show. The ratings are bad anyway. They don't need them to get worse. Do you think that people tune in for CM Punk?
No! It's
No.
a one big circle jerk of people who think it fucking matters. Here's the deal. I don't care what anybody says. All you jerk off marks that think you know what you're talking about and you really don't. AEW is a television company. That's it. They don't tour. They do TVs and live events. They're a television company. That's all they are. And when you're a television company and your television show isn't growing, it means you're dying. You have to grow your audience, or eventually you're going to go away. It's the nature, it's survival of the fittest. It's Darwin's theory of television evolution. You grow, you evolve, or you die. It's as simple. And you can turn yourself into some kind of fucking data pretzel and get into all kinds of data gymnastics to try to paint a picture that's not exactly the way things really are. Here's the way things really are. If you're a television company, your audience has to grow. And everybody, they bet the farm on CM Punk. Not just financially, because obviously Tony has money to burn, which is another issue. I'm going to talk about that before this show's over. But that's called a tease. Still good. But where was I?
That they're a television company and that they're
Television company. They put all their eggs in the CM Punk basket, and what has it achieved? He's been there a fucking year. Nothing has happened on television. Nothing. They've flatlined. If he was on a fucking table in an emergency room right now, and it was a triage situation, and patients were being brought in by ambulances because there was this weird, freaky fucking accident on the 405, like in the 911 series, and there's bodies coming in and body parts, and they're looking at this motherfucker over here going, we just can't get a heartbeat. It's just flatline. Guess what happens to you? You're a fucking toe tag. You're in the morgue.
I don't know what that is.
You're dead. You're either growing or you're dying. And they put all these resources behind Punk with all these big expectations. And they realize those expectations for about a week. And then they flatlined. The reputation, the mystique, the perception of Punk was so much greater than the reality of Punk.
Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing it today.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is. You can think I'm full of shit. You can bury me for, WCW going under or whatever you think. I don't really give a fuck. But you cannot deny the fact that this guy showing up and all the resources they put behind him is put AEW in a worse position than they were when he came. Therefore, the worst investment in the history of professional wrestling. I predicted it, and I'm fucking right.
Yeah.
You're not wrong, but could the same be said in Tony Khan placing the Bucks, Kenny, and Cody, who's now on the other show, in executive positions? Because that's been a 3-year.
Executive position. What is that? It's a title. It's a title. You get to put it on your business card. I've seen companies that would hand out fucking TNA used to hand out titles like fucking boxes of Cracker Jacks because it was a lot easier to keep people happy with a title than it was with a paycheck.
Mm-hmm. But it seems like that's what CM Punk is mad about. You say, oh, you got your EVP saying this and EVPs da-da-da-da-da. That seems to irk him that they have that title as vain, as much as a vanity title as it is.
I'm gonna play the other side of the coin for just a minute. Because I think there's always two sides to every story, right? I mean, to me, there will never be a side of the story where Punk could justify what he did to Tony Khan. And I know that sounds weird, like I'm defending Tony Khan, just like I defend Ted Turner. I mean, there's certain things you just don't fucking do, or you're a piece of shit if you do them. I lose respect for people that disrespect people that they shouldn't disrespect. that they have no reason to disrespect. And where were we again?
No reason to disrespect.
Yeah, no reason to disrespect Tony Khan. Right? Punk disrespecting Tony Khan?
Yeah, well, obviously he did. But I just can't remember the point that I was trying to make. All right, let's move on.
We're not being very helpful. We are so mesmerized
Yeah.
by your words tonight, Eric. We definitely,
Really
I
so
think I'm
not, because I forgot what I was saying.
well, I know we usually switch over to our ad-free shows, friends, who are lovely, so I'm sure they won't mind that we hang on with our 83 Weeks crowd for just a little while longer tonight. So many good questions. This one from Josh Kofi. Easy E. Thoughts on wrestlers like William Regal, Miro, and Andrade, Buddy Matthews, possibly requesting their release? Triple H guys want to go back home. What do you think about that? We know that Malachi Black has requested his release. The others are rumors.
I don't know.
So here's an idea that maybe those guys weren't happy at WWE, didn't get the creative freedom that they wanted. They're at AEW now getting it and are still, this is words coming right from Malachi Black's mouth, he feels demoralized by the booking of his character. Is there something to be said for the fact that wrestlers are just never going to be happy unless they're the number one guy in the main event? And I don't blame them because they're passionate, and who doesn't want to be at the top of their game? But how do you deal with that?
How does who deal with it?
How does a Tony Khan deal with everybody wanting to be the top guy and everyone who isn't getting to be the top guy saying, hey, I'm out of here?
Let him go. I mean, Malachi, I have nothing against Malachi. I've talked to him. I've met him. I've had lunch with him. Seems like a really interesting, intelligent, talented guy. But I don't know him. He may not be cut out for this business. Not every actor that auditions for a scene is worthy of getting that job, even though in their minds they feel like they're the best that there is. And it's a very subjective business, dude. You may think your character is the most amazing character in the world and you could change the business, and your vision is a vision that's going to, connect with tens of millions of people around the world, but you may be fucking high. Maybe you're wrong. And some people just can't distinguish between what they feel and what works. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I think you
Hey, and by the way, I bet you there's also a fair number of people that are sitting in AEW right now going, are you fucking kidding me? I ain't gonna raise my hand, bitch. This check is clearing every time. I think Tony's a swell guy. I think he's brilliant. Go Tony.
Those people are pushing.
You're surrounded by a lot more of those people than you are people who are going to be honest with you. Trust me.
Those are the people who are going to have catering requests. Those are those people. Like, can we get vegan options? That's what they want.
Hey, WWE has vegan options. Maybe not anymore now that Daniel Bryan isn't there. Well, we want to switch over to a special after party just for our ad-free shows, friends. But before we do, we hear that our live viewers are waiting on this joke from Mick Mac, who said, if I had $5 for every math test I failed, I'd have $37.
And a sense of humor.
And the maths are apparently plural down there in the land down under. But we want to thank everybody who tuned in live and asked such great questions tonight on the 83 Weeks channel. Make sure that you hit that big red subscribe button and turn on the little bell so you get a notification every time we go live with Eric and you can have your questions answered. We didn't even get to all of them tonight, but we do this every Thursday live at 5 p.m. Pacific time right here. And if you sign up over at Ad Free Shows, you can join our special after party. And we are going to get to that right now. So thank you all so much for tuning in live. We will see you next week. Ad-free shows, friends. Stay tuned.
Breaker 19. 20 there, trucker.